Hello everybody, this is Karen from Sew and Save, and I'm here at my studio at the Ponderosa, and we are here for Sew What Club. We are doing our third block in April of 2025, and this is what our block looks like, and we are working on a project called Blue Skies. So this is our third block that we're working on, and so it's called Part 3, Block C. This month, you're going to need your Ultimate Flying Geese ruler because it's all about the flying geese this month. I know you love flying geese, and especially with the Ultimate Flying Geese ruler, it makes them super easy. So let me go through what you need to cut for this block. So first you're going to need block A, which is a background block, and you're going to need 2 large squares of that. And then you're also going to need 2 large squares for block C. So that's A and C, 2 large squares. Then you're going to need 12 smaller squares for block B, and so that's going to be used to make your flying geese that are going around the outside. So these are going to be used for flying geese. Then you're going to need medium 1, and you're going to need 8 small squares. So 8 of those small squares are going to go with 2 of these cream A backgrounds, and this is going to be letter D on your pattern. So you're going to need those. Then you will need letter E, which is going to be a medium 2. And you're going to have 4 of those, or 8 of those actually, 4 on each block. Then the next thing you're going to need is your dark 1. And that dark 1 square, you're going to have 2 of them, and that's going to go right in the center. Now you're going to make some more flying geese for the outside. Some will be have the light as the center triangle, and some will have dark as the center triangle. So your center triangle on those are going to be your dark 2 fabrics, and that's going to be letter G. Then you will need 8. You're actually going to have 4 of these because you're actually going to end up making 12 of these flying geese with the number 2 in the centers. And then you're going to need 8 of the smaller blocks, which are going to go with some of your light pieces, and I think those are going to be your C's, that those are going to go together to make the other flying geese. So it's all about flying geese this month. We're going to make all the flying geese at once, all the color waves, and then we're going to trim them up all at once, and it's going to be beautiful. So get your fabrics, collect them, make sure that you know your light A from your medium A and your medium dark and your dark 1 and your dark 2. Get all those A's and B's and 1s and 2s all lined up and ready to go, and we will start making some flying geese. This month, it's all about the flying geese. Oh, I know how you love flying geese, but we are going to use our Ultimate Flying Geese ruler to make these, so they're going to go quick and they're going to be perfect. So I'm going to have you make all of your flying geese all at once. I know it's a little scary, right? So you want to make sure that you know your dark 1, dark 2s, light 1s, light 2s. Or I should say medium 1s and medium 2s, dark 1s and dark 2s, because we only have 1 light. All right, so what we're going to do is I have these dark 1s here. The dark 1s are 4.5 inches square, and there's 2 of them, 1, 2. And then I have these little, these were my medium 1s, and I believe that's what they are. Tell me that's what they are. Nope. These are my medium 2s. These 2 are medium 2s, and they're going to go in the corners here. Those are my E's, okay? Medium 2 are E's. You're going to have 4 of each of those. So we're going to take these and we're going to set these aside. You're only going to use these at the end when you set up your block and sew it together. So get those all out of the way. Now you're going to have 2 large backgrounds and 2 large backgrounds. 2 are going to be for A and 2 are going to be B's. Nope, take that back, C's. So yeah, see how easy it is to get confused? So we're going to have A's and then we're going to have C's. With your A, you're going to actually, I kind of have these backwards since I laid them out, which your A, you're going to have your H squares, which are dark 2 squares. And you're going to have 2 large, and each one of these sets have 4 dark 2 squares. So I'm just going to kind of lay those together and set those aside. Then I'm going to take, and I have 2 more large squares. These are my C's. So to go along with my C's, I'm going to have D. And D is going to be my medium 1. Alrighty, these are medium 1s. I'm going to have 2 of these and 4 medium 1s to go with each one of my large squares. So I have 4 in each stack. So I'm going to set those aside. Keep them together. Then you're going to have 3 large dark 2 squares, which are G, which is up here, with 3 sets of 4 light squares. So each one of these sets has 4 light ones in, and they're going to line up with all 3 of these dark ones. So now that you have them kind of set up, you can go over to your sewing machine, keep these together, and start sewing. So I'll start with, I guess I'll start with my first set that I showed you. And I would kind of take these over by my machine, get them all lined up. You can set these aside once you know who they go with. Once you know who they're going with, you're going to set these up diagonally on here, just like this. I'm just going to sew one set together to show you, but you can lay them all out. So I would go over by my machine, on the table next to my machine. I would get all of these lined up exactly how they're supposed to be. You can kind of set those aside. Do the same with these and do the same with these. My laser light, or the line that you draw, is going to go from this point to this point. You're going to sew on either side 1/4 of an inch away from that center line on each one of these. Then we'll bring them back. I'll show you how to cut them, and we'll put the next piece on. Okay, so you're going to do this with all of these sets. I have my first set sewn together. So you're going to have more of these than I do. You're going to have 2 sets of these. This is your A with your H, and H is your dark 2 fabric. You're going to have 2 C's, which is your light fabric, with, you're going to have 2 sets of these, 2 of these, and then on that you're going to have 2 squares of your medium 1s. Okay, so this is D, C and D, A and H, and then you're going to have 3 sets. I sewed up 2 of them. You're going to have 3 sets of dark 2s, which are G, with light letter B's. Okay, so these are light B's and medium 2s. Okay, and you'll have 3 sets of these, 2 sets of each of these. Now I'm going to take and cut from diagonal point to diagonal point, just all the way down diagonally. And I'm going to cut these in, cut them in half, basically, just like this. And you'll do all of them exactly the same. Once I do that, and this goes really quick, I will show you how to press them. You're going to press them so that they look like a heart when you're all done. And you're going to press towards the small triangles. So you're going to take your seams and press up so it looks like a heart. Sometimes this method of making half skirt or flying geese is called the heart method because these look like little hearts. So we're going to press all of these up and then come back and I will show you what to do next. So I have these lined up together so I know who goes with who, and you're going to end up with 4 of these, and 6 of these. Alrighty. Now we're going to match up our other corners. So we'll start with this one. I would take these over and set them up next to my sewing machine. And I'm going to lay this right sides together and right into that corner so that this point goes right up through that little V. And I'm going to do that on every single one of these. Oops, I need this one. Here we go. So you would have 4 that look like this, 4 that are going to look like this, and then you're going to have 6 that end up looking like this with your dark 2 in the corners, with your background going on like this. Yep, there we go. It's hard to see some kind of my tone-on-tone fabric. So we're going to lay those all out on there. You're going to line up your laser, or you're going to draw a line from point to point, and then you'll sew 1/4 inch on either side of that line that you drew, or your laser line, whichever you're doing. Then once again, we're going to cut on that line right diagonally, and we're going to then go and press this going up in this direction, and there's your little flying geese. We'll come back and trim them up. I have all my flying geese done. Well, not all of them, but you will have all of your flying geese done. So we're going to start out with this one, which is your light, and this is going to be G and B, which is your light, and your dark 2. You'll have 8 of these. Then you're going to have C and D, which is your light and medium 1 for these, and you'll have 8 of these. Then you're going to have 12 of these, which is, let's see, H and A. So you will have, do I have that right? Did I say that? Yep, I did say that right. Perfect. Okay, H and A, which is dark 2 and light, and you'll have 12 of these. Now it's time to trim these up and make them perfect, perfect, perfect. So what we're going to start with is lining up all of your pieces. And I kind of use my nice big board and I kind of lay these out in front of me so they look like a little mountain in front of me. I'm not sure I'm going to get all of mine out on here, but we'll get going. We'll get it going. And then another row. If I was doing this and I didn't have to be under the camera, I would go up to my larger board where I could put every single one of these out in front of me. But we're going to do these. Now you're going to grab your Ultimate Flying Geese ruler and you're going to use, is this blank on the back? Kind of. You're going to use line D. So you're going to take this little dashed line that says D and line that up on your block. And our block is going to end up being 2 by 4 when it's sewn into the quilt, and unfinished it will be 2.5 by 4.5. So now we'll take our ruler, we're going to lay it down so that the D little mountain or teepee, sometimes I call it teepee, sometimes I call it a mountain. Today they're mountains. So you're going to line up your D mountain on the seam line of your block, and you're going to trim the right side and across the top. The reason I lay as many out as I can, now all I have to do is lift this up, lay it down, line up the D. So your eye is always on the D. You're lifting it up, laying it down. Lift it up, lay it down. Over and over again until you get them all cut. So I'm going to quick trim these up for you and keep going, move them over a little bit. Come on. Get it on there. I think you can do this. So you can be trimming yours while I'm trimming mine. And they are going to be beautiful because they're all a little kitty wampus right now, aren't they? They're not very pretty, but we are going to make them beautiful. All right, there we go. Trim some more, keep going. It's going to take you twice as long to trim as me because I only have half as many. But I'll have to do it again later after class. After we go over it in class, then I'll go home the next day and finish up my block. Okie dokie. Get that on there. Trim it up nice. Now I come to the last set. And you're going to do this with all of your flying geese blocks. The reason that I like to make them all at the same time is that I have to do less thinking. Okay, what do I have to do for step one? Okay, I've got everything lined up, everything ready to go. I matched up all my pieces correctly, double checked it to make sure I matched up the right ones with the right big squares with the right little squares. And then I sew them all together. So I only have to think of each step one time. Otherwise, if you do each step separately, you have to go back and go, okay, what was step one? How do I do step one? Okay, now I have to do what was step two? So I only have to think of each step one time. Now I'm getting my little scraps out of the way, and I'm going to lay them so that they're a little valley in front of me. Yep, so they're kind of upside down now. Just like this. And then we're going to trim the other side. We're going to flip the ruler and trim the other side, the right side, and actually the bottom of the block. All right, got those all out of the way. Grab my ruler. We're going to now flip it, and we're going to use this edge. So now it's kind of squared off in rectangle, kind of looks like the block that we're going to make. We're going to follow the line that says 2 by 4, and we're going to also look at the D. I'm going to kind of lay it straight down. So the 2 by 4 line is going to run on the left side and the bottom because we've trimmed these off. So now we have a really, really nice and pretty right angle there to line up that and that. Then the little V that my seam line makes lines right up with the D. So now on the trim 2, I'm going to trim across the left side or the right side and across the top. Pick up my ruler, set it back down exactly the way that I set it on the last block, trim up the right and across the top. Pick it up, set it down over and over again, making each and every block just as beautiful and perfect as you can. And I'm readjusting, adjusting just a little bit to get where they weren't quite as happy as they should be, but they are going to be fine once I sew them into my project. So again on the 2 by 4 and the D lines up and go all the way around. That's why it's so much easier to only have to do this one time and do it on all the blocks instead of doing a set, then flipping it over, then doing another set, flip it, you know, because then you're just like, okay, where am I supposed to line that up? How does it go? This way, I only have to think about this one time. Only have to figure out the ruler one time. And then I just do it over and over and over again. My camera kind of is in the way of this, so I have to line it up over here a little bit. Get my arm in the way. Line it up, trim, and trim. You're going to do this with every single block you have. Once you get that done, you know what? We are ready to sew the entire block together. I know, wasn't that quick? You did a great job. All of your flying geese are perfect. Got to get these out of the way. I have too many things in my way. Oh, I got all those cut. Oh, good. Forgot about that. Yay! It's always nice when you get something done that you didn't think you had done. And my last set, and then we will stop and put the block together. When I pressed these the second time, I used some best press on the blocks to make them nice and flat. And when you use best press, then if you have any diagonal lines, things don't stretch as much, everything stays in place, everything lays nice and flat, and you have beautiful, beautiful seams as you go along. All right, I'm going to collect everything, and we're going to put our block together. I have all my pieces set out. I have my stacks of flying geese, and if I was making both of these at the same time, I would probably put two boards, or I would right next to one another on my sewing table, right next to my machine, I would set up both blocks so that I would sew together the same pieces on both blocks at the same time. All right, so I've got my little flying geese, I've got my centers and those other little squares that we set aside. I'm going to grab my instructions so we sew it all up right. So you're going to start out by sewing up your center. So you're going to start out with your large, medium, dark one block. I get those confused. Dark one block is in the center. Then you're going to use your C and D block of your flying geese. And I kind of lay these out. We're going to lay them out right there, there, and there. Look how good that's looking already. Now I'm going to use my medium 2, I believe these are. Yes, they are. They're the medium 2 blocks or squares, and I'm going to lay those down. So we're going to go and sew this first. So I would sew these guys together here, these together here, just like this. And then I would sew these 3 rows together. I think I would probably press toward the center here and out on these 2 sides. And then I might press these open. I think that's what I'm going to do. All right, go stitch those with a nice 1/4 inch seam and come back and we'll add around the outside. Here is the beautiful center of my block. I ended up sewing everything to one side, and at the end on my top and bottom, I pressed that towards the inside. It just looked better if I pressed it toward the big block in the center. Now we're going to lay out the rest of our flying geese. You're going to take the ones with the dark center and the light on the outside, and those are going to go along the top and bottom, just like this. So that's why you're going to have 6 on this block and 6 on your other block, and that's why you use up your 12. Alrighty. Then you're going to take the ones with the white in the center, and those are going to lay on the sides. Do that and that, and this, and this. Okay, so now you can see how the whole block comes together. By laying it out, you know you're going to get these sewn together correctly. So I'm going to kind of pop these up a little bit so they're a little bit separated so you can see them a little better. So I'm going to start by sewing my top and bottom, and now this seam is pressed out. So I think I'm going to try and press this seam going in. This seam doesn't really matter. I might press it open or I might press it to one side or the other. I'll probably press this seam open. These 2 can nest over here, so that'll be kind of nice to help you get these 2 points lined up nicely. So I'm going to sew the outsides together, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about sewing them onto the actual block. Okay, now I have my 2 sides sewn together and ready to put on, and then I have the top and bottom sewn together and ready to put on. So these seams are pressed toward the inside, these seams are pressed toward the outside, so that these will nest very nicely when we do our little corners. Now what I'm going to do is sew these two onto the sides. When I pressed these seams where it's a little thick here, I always give these seams a little shot of best press. That helps to flatten out that little bump that's in there and just makes things line up and lay much nicer when you sew them together. So we're going to sew these together. Then I'm going to come back and talk about how to sew the top and bottom on. I have my two sides all sewn on. Everything is matching up really nice right here and here, here and here. One of them I had to re-sew like 4 times to make it match up really nice. Sometimes they just don't want to play nice together. But hang with it, stick with it. What I do is I sew these together from here to here and here to here. I check it, see if I like it. If I don't like it, then I move it and I adjust it. Once I get it to right where I like it, and that's what I did. I restitched like this section right here. I also have cat hair on here. I restitched this section right here about 4 times in order to get it just to match up super duper nice. Then I pressed my seams flat on this edge, and I had pressed my seams flat on the center of these as well. So now I gave it another little spritz of best press as I sewed, or as I pressed. So now I'm going to add the last section on. And here again, now the seams on these are going this way, the seams on these are going that way, so they should nest very nicely together. And you want to try to get these points lined up with those points. Here again, I'm going to sew from here to here on each one of those, and then once I like how they lined up, then I go straight across and stitch it the rest of the way. I will probably press these open when I'm finished. Ta-da! Here is our finished block. I am sure that your block looks just as good as this one. I got everything lined up here and here. That went really pretty well. I think there was one that I did over again that I didn't like. And then I pressed this seam open, and so the seams around here are all pressed open, and the others are pressed in or out, depending. And so that helps to make a really nice flat block here and here. No bumps, no bulges. It looks just great. So you're going to have 2 of these when you're all finished. I can't wait to see them in the next So What class in, what are we talking about? May. May will be coming up when we'll see all of these beautiful blocks done, and we'll go on to our next one. So see you on the 3rd Monday in May with your blocks all beautifully completed. Thanks for joining me.